I want you to get together.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I loved what you just said, and I want to kind of compound on that, Paul, when you said it's really going to be isolation. Because interestingly, as I've been researching these new Apple Vision Pro goggles that are set to release next year to the general public at $3,500 a pop, by the way,
Mm.
um, these things, I was on the website where they were promoting all of the bells and whistles, and they kept showing these pictures of people wearing these goggles who are, apparently watching movies or going through their photos or whatever, but all of them are just sitting alone. These are the promo pictures. They're sitting alone on their couch with these goggles on with just they're just like in their own little world. And even in the pictures, and I understand marketing and advertisement, you don't want a bunch of distracting things in the photo that aren't necessary to the product you're selling, but it's always a picture of a human being all by themselves in a room, just sitting there on the couch with these goggles on. And you don't see a dog, you don't see, like, there's no fellowship going on, there's no other, it's not like let's use these goggles collectively, like let's Bluetooth it together and all watch this together. It really struck me when you said isolation, and I do think that a huge part of the success of this entire agenda is going to be getting people to go further and further and further into themselves and become more um, almost afraid of the outside world. And we're even seeing this with the younger generations. When you and I were kids, we were out on our bikes outside all day, and we were upset when mom called us in. And so we're already seeing this. We're seeing the malls, the shopping malls over here are dead. Like, the only people in a shopping mall are old people that are walking it for exercise. And this whole social structure, and this is another part of breaking down humanity and turning them into something more robotic, is we're losing the ability to even fellowship with each other. And we all know the cliche where you're sitting in a room and there's 5 kids sitting on the couch next to each other and they're all texting each other, right? But I've seen it happen. It's literally what's happening. And so I really think that you're onto something with this technology is going to break down social maturity, relational maturity. And it's really interesting. I've read a lot of books on the effect of trauma on the brain, and it talks about how the effect of trauma on the brain is that a person will become more and more isolated, and they categorize highly traumatized people into 3 ages of relational maturity. So it's kind of like an arrested development sort of thing. So depending upon how traumatized you were, you will get stunted at a certain level of relational maturity. So you might be 40 years old, but you respond to conflict like a 3-year-old, or you respond to conflict like a 10-year-old. And I'm seeing that even our technology is almost mimicking in the brain what trauma does. And I think that a lot of our technology, even though it appears to be fun and interesting and enthralling and entertaining and opening up this whole world to us, and we can talk to people around the world, like you and I in another generation never would have met. So I mean, there's good things to it, but it is subtly affecting our brains in the same way that trauma affects our brain.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Well, there's an addiction side to it as well, which also affects the
Yes.
brain. There's a reward, endorphin release reward mechanism built into almost every single part of these devices, which keeps you hooked and addicted to them. And in terms of the trauma as well, I mean, you must know as well as I do what people behind a keyboard with anonymity can turn into. Absolute
Oh gosh.
demons, monsters who wouldn't even dream of speaking the way they do in real life to you and to your face.
Yes.
But they can get cruel and cut as deep and as vicious as they possibly can. And no, I kind of have a thick skin because I've been doing this for years now, and it's kind of I don't think I've had much trauma which has stunted my ability to deal with conflict. But I do see these affect people in drastic ways, and it can lead to suicide. You know,
Yeah.
it's sad, but it does lead to that. And I have family members, you know, right now who's dealing with some kind of cyberbullying thing, all to do with the phones, and
Mhm.
and I listened to the situation, and I realised none of this would exist without the phone. You know,
Yeah.
this wouldn't be
Yeah.
an issue, and kids would just be kids, and it would have moved on already. But it I see it a lot. The isolation is a huge part of it, like you said, and we know these satanic ritual abuse victims. This is
Yeah.
what they do. They cause trauma in people's lives, to fracture their minds in order to create altars, and it's mind control at the end of the day. And trauma is a
Yes. Yeah.
huge part of mind control techniques. And this technology is just such a powerful tool for that. I mean, just backpedaling a little bit. You know, you were talking earlier about how Elon Musk says the only way to combat the advancement of technology is to get more advanced with our technology. You know, it
Yeah.
sounds to me like a secular way of talking about we need to use good magic to fight the bad magic. You know,
Yes.
it's the same language, isn't it? You know, we're the good magicians. We're
Yes.
the Jedi fighting against the evil Sith.
Yes.
The evil Sith. It's always this utterly false dichotomy that they're playing off of, and so
Yes.
and characters like Elon Musk are like the secular hero, the secular Jedi, or the
Hmm.
scientific mind version of the good magician of Harry Potter, let's say, against Voldemort or something, the chosen one. It's always there,
Yes.
and I don't know. When I see these narratives play out in front of me on the screen, I can't help but laugh a little bit because I can kind of, it's childish, and
Yeah.
it makes you wonder at what level mentally people are processing reality if they're buying this stuff, if they're actually buying this crap. You know what I mean? It's kind of like
Yeah.
they must be looking at the world like they are a 10-year-old in the theater watching Star Wars for the first time. You know, they must literally feel that passionate about these characters they've been given on such a stunted developmental way. um and
Yeah.
you see it in other things. You know, it's not just arrested development is a huge issue for millennials and maybe not Gen Z. I'm not totally sure. I think they may be going a bit the other way. I'm not 100%. But I definitely see in the millennial generation, there's this obsession with childish things. You know, let's say
Hmm.
Comic Con and anime and things like that, and
Yeah.
this regression to no longer to not to want to remain as childlike as possible for as long as possible. And I'm sure there's a quote somewhere in the Bible. Somewhere in the Bible is, when you become an adult, you put aside childish things. I think,
Mm.
I think there's a good reason for that, And I'm rambling. I'll let you carry on and share anything else you've got to say about that. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, I love kind of the philosophical direction this conversation is taking because there is a component of arrested development in this technology, and some of it's just it taps into our nostalgia. Like we now have the ability to go back and watch the shows that were on when we were kids and stuff, and so some of it is like it appeals to the nostalgia.
Hmm.
But I kind of coupling this with what you were saying earlier, I'm really glad that you brought up the trauma-based mind control. And so when we think about MK Ultra or we think of satanic ritual abuse, we are getting to a place now. I think we're already there. It's not as aggressive, but gone are the days where you have to be in an underground military base or in a double basement of a satanic coven's jump space, right? What we've got now is through technology and through the way these technologies can tap into our altered states of consciousness or brain entrainment or through these various technologies that they have, which we can go into detail about, we can now mind control people without having to have them in the laboratory. In the old days, you had to abduct the people and bring them on the little UFO. You had to pull people into the astral realm through sleep paralysis. You had to be in the military family. You had to be in the coven. You had to have access, hands-on access to people to trauma-based mind control them. And the technology that we've got out there now, between brain entrainment and the use of frequencies, these pineal gland pills and supplements, voice to skull technology, uh, 5G, probably chemtrails, all the Wi-Fi, the AI. Um, there are so many things at their fingertips now where they can switch us into meditative mode while we're wide awake. You don't need the super expensive, you know, trip to South America for the ayahuasca, trip. You don't need the psychedelics. You don't need the new age education.
Mm.
Just with a pair of earbuds, you can sit in your room, and a lot of these things that used to have to happen in the astral realm can happen in broad daylight, wide awake. You don't even have to be in a sleep state or a drug-induced state anymore. And you talked about that kind of at the top of the show, and that's kind of what I'm interested in is educating people that we have to start having some discernment as to what technologies we are going to participate in, what stuff we're going to have in our home. Uh, a lot of this stuff is being specifically designed to thin the veil so that they have access to all of us 24/7. And if you've got voice to skull technology, this is a two-way radio. This isn't just that they're planting uh, words and messages in our mind. It's a retrieval mechanism as well. And when you think about how frail the human mind is, and you add to it the stress of life, everything that we're all dealing with on a daily basis, financial issues, marriage issues, relationship issues, kids, jobs, um, you look at how easily influenced we are. Look how psychologically prone we are to marketing and advertising techniques, and suggestibility, et cetera, et cetera. So if all of a sudden you have a serpent-like voice in your head all day long, and you're no longer even recognizing this as an intrusive thought, because you are used to interacting with technology every day that does speak to you and interact with you. Right now, it's just algorithms. Hey, I see that you've read all the Harry Potter books. Here's an advertisement for a Harry Potter t-shirt. Like right now, we just chalk everything off to algorithms. And well, the reason that they know what I'm thinking is because they can look at my phone, they can look at my texts, they can look at my internet searches. But again, I ask the question, at what point, when those algorithms are seamlessly exchanged for sentient beings who are interacting with us, FaceTime with these things, at what point are we going to know that the technology has been swapped out for actual sentient beings? And we're no longer talking to Siri or Alexa, but we're actually talking to Baal and Molech. At what point, without the word of God, without walking daily with the Lord, without the word, without truth, at what point, even Christians, are you confident that you're going to understand and recognize when algorithms have been swapped for sentience? Because our algorithms are so sophisticated, and they're only going to get more sophisticated.
But this is a true spiritual manifest into physical event we're kind of witnessing here, isn't it? Because, like I said, in the past, you did have to do the shamanistic ritual,
Yes.
or whatever it is,
Yes.
or do the summoning ritual of some kind, take the drug, put in the work, learn the knowledge, you know what I mean, activate your
Yes.
pineal gland, whatever it is, or get into the theta brainwave state or get into that just before you're about to fall asleep, master your dreamscapes, you know what I mean, learn
Yes.
how to have
Yes.
out-of-body experiences. You had to do all these things, and it was very much
Yes.
us trying to get into the spiritual, or to get a glimpse of the spiritual, to communicate with these beings. This is kind of the reverse of this. And don't get me wrong, I do believe demons have manifested to people in ignorance and have always presented themselves as something they are not.
Yes.
We're aliens from the Pleiades constellation, for example.
Right. Right.
We're ascended masters from the future, come back to teach you how to become like us.
Yes.
There's probably
Yeah.
thousands of examples here I can give. Then the point is, they always come with a different message to individuals based on what they think they're going to best respond to. But they always have the same message. You are a god. God isn't real. Jesus is just a form of consciousness, and we all have the
Yeah.
potential to become Jesus. The usual serpent in the garden stuff. The
Yes.
message has never really changed. And I don't see this as a different event necessarily. This is now the demons manifesting to us, saying, "I'm just your AI assistant."
Yeah. Oh, wow.
It's the same way of getting us to interact with them and communicate with them and feed the beast in that sense. Give them our attention, our energy. That's all they've ever really been after. They loosh off this stuff. They grow
Yep.
stronger the more attention we give them. The
Yes.
veil thins the more we create a stronger channel with them. That's what channeling's all about, and the stronger you can make
Yeah.
the channel, the stronger the connection to the being, the more easily they can possess or oppress or get into our realm. Because at the end of the day, they're not supposed to be here.
Right.
There's a veil put in place for a good reason by God Himself to make sure that we're safe from them. Because these things they still cause serious offences and do anything they can to get a body and kill us in the process. And I do truly see all of this as just it's their turn to get to us instead of us trying to get to them. Then
Yeah.
the way they're going to do it is it's going to be through code, ethereal means that to us we've convinced ourselves are binary means. It's just ones and
Yeah.
zeros. But do we really know what we're playing with? Because someone mentioned to me the other day, this is very much what happened when everything switched from analog to digital. This was a very serious change in reality, and
Yeah.
Satan, they call him the prince of the power of the air, and maybe I'll stop there now and let you respond. I said a lot of things there, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. No, this is great. This is great. You've articulated so many of the things I've been thinking with and just worded it so carefully and so beautifully. And going back to what you were saying about, in the old days, you had to go find these gurus, you had to, be trained in all of this transcendental meditation and all of this stuff. You really had to go out of your way and have a lot of arcane knowledge to be one of the chosen one. And what a lot of that stuff is it is your signing of the permission slip. Hey man, this is what the watchers are saying now. Like, hey God, you can't hold me accountable and throw me in the abyss. I didn't leave my first estate and come down and teach arcane knowledge to man. They came to me. They learned this stuff. They took that psychedelic. And so see how they're shifting the accountability.
Mm.
It's like they think that they're going to get away with it. We learned from the first generation watchers, if we leave our first estate and we go down to them and share the mysteries of heaven, we're going to get locked in the abyss. We're going to be judged. We're going to lose our souls. So we still have an agenda. We still have a job to do. We still have to teach them all of this arcane knowledge and tell them that they're star seeds and that they're going to be like God and all this. But we will get in trouble if we come to them. So let's lure them up here. Let's let them leave their first estate and get in trouble. But then we can still carry on our agenda. And so what's scary about where we're headed now is the invitation, the signing of the permission slip, which used to be extremely complicated, and you had to be in the club and you had to be really knowledgeable in the area of psychedelics or out-of-body experiences, lucid dreaming, astral projection. You had to really be going out of your way, doing things to very obviously be giving that invitation. Whereas now, what do we do in our ignorance when things are being peddled to us as games, apps, you know, objects of convenience? At what point does this become the invitation? I went out and I bought the VR headset and I stuck it on and I chose to view the world through these manufactured lenses. At what point is buying a cell phone in case you get a flat tire turning into, quite frankly, to go all the way off the cliff, Paul, in antiquity, they worshipped the black stones. And many people believed those black stones were sentient. They were put in the temples, they were put in the courts, and they were divination devices. And these black stones were meteorites. They, like Diana, it says in the New Testament that Diana was the god that fell from the sky. And if you actually look into that stone, it was a meteor stone. And when you really delve into what powers our technology, the silicon and the various elements that are making up these AI chips,
Mm-hmm.
at what point has the enemy tricked an extremely civilized, educated generation to revert back to worshiping the black stones?
I want you to get together